Welcome to Eyefrica Media, Africa's gateway to eye care. Join Dr. Daryl Glover and Obi Malopi for all things eye care in Africa. Greetings, esteemed colleagues, and welcome back to another episode on Eyefrica Media, where we are the #1 eye care platform in Africa. And today I'm very excited because we have a history maker, a game changer, someone that has done some amazing things, and I always get to see whenever we're at various conferences here in the States. But friends and family, I'd like to welcome my colleague, Dr. Mina Etta. How are you doing today, my friend?
Well, thank you very much. I'm doing great. And you?
I'm doing extremely well and super excited to have you on the podcast today to have a great conversation about all the amazing things in eye care that you're doing. Now, before we get this party started and go too far, I think it's only right that we get to know who is in front of us today. So if you don't mind maybe sharing where you're from, where you practice, and I always like to know, how did you get into this amazing profession known as eye care? So if you don't mind, maybe setting the foundation, and then we'll jump into some of the amazing things that you have done in your career.
Okay, hello. First of all, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to be here. I'm honored to be here. My name is Navy Captain Mina Eda. I'm from Nigeria. I am a doctor of optometry and I work with the Nigerian Navy. Presently, I am the head of ophthalmology at the Nigerian Navy Reference Hospital in Calabar here in Nigeria. I began my eye care practice in 1995 when I got admitted into the University of Benin to study optometry. I graduated 2001. Thereafter, we normally have our internship we do for 1 year, then a 1 year compulsory service to the country. I did that, then a year later, I was opportune to join the Navy. But within that period, I've worked as my first appointment was an optometrist at the Nigerian Navy Reference Hospital in Lagos, Ojo. That was the first place I worked as an optometrist. The next, I was moved. Normally in the military, they move you from place to place. So the next place I worked, I was there for like 4 years. Then I moved to the Navy Medical Center somewhere in another part of Nigeria, River State, where I stayed there for about 3 years. Then I moved to somewhere else again in Delta State, where I was there for another 3 years, then as the head of optometry. From there, I moved to where I am presently. I was the pioneer optometrist that started the eye clinic in the reference hospital where I am now. Then from there, I went to the headquarters. I was at the headquarters for about 8 years, where I was doing more of administrative duties. Then finally, I worked at the health insurance for the military, the medical health insurance for the military. We call it the Defense Health Maintenance Limited. I was there as the general officer representing the Nigerian Navy at that facility. But presently, I'm at the Nigerian Navy Reference Hospital, Calabar, as the head of ophthalmology.
Wow. I mean, I'm that just alone, just that little bit of, 1 to 2 minutes, I'm just blown away. You have done so much for the eye care profession. So I want to say thank you for all the great work that you have done. And I hope and pray that you continue to do all this amazing work because, there is an optometrist or an optometry student out there that's looking at your path and they're like, how do I get there? And as long as you're out there continuing making the moves and making the impact and making the change, they have the footsteps to follow. Now, one thing that I kept hearing throughout this journey is the word Navy. I'm curious to know, becoming a captain in the Nigerian Navy, you got to break this down because I know that's not an easy task. So if you don't mind maybe breaking down, what went off in your head that said, I need to join the Navy, then also kind of walk me through maybe the ups and downs of what that journey has been like to get to where you're at now, because you have done some incredible things, my friend.
Okay. It started in 2004. I just finished serving the country, which is 1 year service to the country. And I was working somewhere and a patient came in and was like, would you like to work in the military? I was like, I'm very adventurous. I said, okay. How long? He said for like 10 years. I said, okay, fine. But you have to get the forms and, fill the form. And I got the form. Normally, the military form is free because it's hard work. So they don't let you buy it. They always tell you that you sold your piece for free, so it's free. The form, I filled the form, and I was curious about what am I getting into. I tried to, and my dad was a retired military officer,
Ah,
though he a long time ago. I can't even remember him in service uniform a very long time ago, you know. So when I got the forms, I told him in the house, but I was skeptical. I didn't want to submit the form. My dad was just pushy. Submit the form, submit the form, submit the form. I was like, okay. Finally, I did. I submitted the form. And I was in the office again. Then that same patient came and said, "Oh, I saw your name in the dailies. They've taken you to come and write the first phase of the exam." Okay, I went. I wrote the exam. That day I was even on duty. I ran. It was a Saturday. I ran. Then I had to run back to the clinic and all that. I wrote the exam. I was there again. The person checked. The people are like, "Your name came out in the next set of the exam." I said, "Oh, okay." I went for the next one. And finally, at the end of the day, they said we had to, I was taken and I had to report for training in the Defense Academy. Wow. I was like, Defense
wow.
Academy, I didn't back in for this one now, you know. So I got to the academy, and the academy drill is not something you talk about. It's something that is worth experiencing, because it's not something you talk about and all that. So when I got there and I found out that I had to shave my hair, I had to, it was a lot, because I didn't really plan. It wasn't something that I saw somebody that was a military. I knew a military person that I wanted to go that path. It was just
Right.
something that I just jumped in because somebody said it was 10 years adventures, and and at the end of the day, when you go to the academy, they teach you something. They make you know that there's nothing that is impossible, you know. So when I got there, and they started all the training, and it was the very rigorous one, very difficult, and they would try and remove every um ounce of doubt or fear in you. So
Yeah.
when all things started coming in me, I was like, okay, there's nothing I can do. I know in the military, there's no woman, there's no, we are all male. There's no woman, there's no, yeah. So I just started putting all the effort. We're 100 females that were taken, 14 female, 100 personnel taken, cadets, were 14 females, and 86 males. And we continued. And at the end of the day, we passed out. Then we continued. We did our sea experience where we were sent on board ships to work for a while. Then later on in 2000, and that was 2005. Then in 2006, after a year training, we're now sent to the various hospitals to work. When I got to the first hospital, the Navy hospital and all that, I was the only uniform. At the time I joined the Navy, we had one male optometrist. He was a very senior officer. He was a captain as at that time, but he
Okay.
joined when optometry used to be a 4-year program. So they didn't understand what optometry was then. Today he's a seaman. They just post him. Today they put him in engineering. They didn't just really know. They were just posting him. Like, yeah. So I was the first person that came in as a doctor of optometry, the 6-year
Right.
program. So when we came in, I was trying to like find my feet. The first place they posted me to, we didn't really have much. Initially, when I joined, they didn't really have a structure. Optometry didn't have a structure in the military per se. We had some civilian staff that worked there, but they are not really committed. They're just civilians. They can come do what they get. So it's the military that are committed to their own practice and all that. So initially, when I joined, I was like, okay, no, we need to build a structure. Structure in terms of manpower, in terms of equipment, in terms of infrastructure, and policies too that will guide the optometry. But I want to thank God that by the grace of God, my superiors, the chief of the naval staff, the FOCs, and they helped me build what we have on ground today. So as I said, I started as sub-lieutenant. I worked in the first place. There was no equipment, a lot of advocacy, writing, trying to make things, and all that. I went to the next place, is the same thing. If they move you from one place to the next, you
Okay.
start trying to build, You can go to a place, they give you an empty room as your office. So you have to turn that empty room into an eye clinic. So
Yeah.
that was yeah. So from places to place I go, I found out that it was the same thing. So I had to build since I was the first, because the other person wasn't really practicing per se. He was more in admin because probably he was tired of fighting. So when I came in, so a lot of advocacy to tell them who I was as a doctor of optometry. And, so I had to start proving myself in different things, in my courses, in everywhere I found my feet, I had to prove myself. So that was the journey till I got to this point that I'm a captain. It has not been easy, but I just want to thank God that He's made this possible.
Well, I mean,
Thank
there's
you.
so much to break down in that. Number one, I think it's very important for us as optometrists to really understand what you just said. Number one, the identity of optometry.
Yeah.
Even though we do, life-changing things, not everyone understands what we
Mm.
actually do. So it's very important to make sure you educate the masses, but most importantly, stand up for yourselves, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
the only true way you can stand up for yourself is by having structure. When you kept
Yeah.
saying structure, once you lay down that foundation and you have that structure, it makes it easier for people to understand all the great work that you do. We got to realize that we help people with the most precious sense known to mankind, which is sight. And
Yeah.
everyone needs us. So it's up to us to create that identity, to create that structure, and make that impact and change.
Yeah.
Now, that's just a little bit that I took from that. The other
Yeah.
big piece is you being the first woman to really be an optometrist in the Navy branch, right? I mean, I think that's a
Yeah.
big deal. That's something that we have to celebrate. That's something that we have to talk about. And to be a captain, that's game changing because I know that wasn't an easy feat.
Yeah.
For optometry students out there, or optometrists that are actually in the Navy right now, and they're looking at maybe getting in your footsteps, I would love for you to maybe share some of the challenges that you experience as a woman, and how you were able to overcome those. Because there is somebody that is listening to this podcast and they're like, you know what? I want to be just like you. How do I get there? How do I overcome some of these obstacles that are in front of me?
Okay. Thank you for that question. For me, I would say, first of all, you have to know who you are, which we talked about. The optometrist, what are you supposed to do? Then, when you get a place, presently, I have about 5 interns working with me presently. And what I tell them is, you have to prove yourself. You have to prove yourself. In the military, we don't have males, we don't have females. They take you as the same. If they say the females will run this kilometer, the male you will run same. Everybody runs, everybody does same. Nobody picks. So for you to distinguish yourself, you have to try and make sure in everything you go for. There are lots of exams we write. There are lots of what they call courses we go for. Most times when you go for those courses, you must do the best you can to come out tops so that it will prove that irrespective of the men. I'll give you an example. There's this course we go for, the junior staff course. Those courses help to prepare you for your leadership capabilities in the military. That's the first course. It's not really first combined course would go the Army, the Air Force, the Navy. During that course, in the Navy, 3 females came out tops. We had a female that was first. That was the second door for that course. I was the third door. I won the chief of Dama Staff Award for the best service paper. I was third in that. So 3 of us out of we're about 50 something participants. We also have participants that come from, we have from Ghana, from other West African countries. We have from South Korea sometimes. We have that. So 3 of us females. You know where they call the first, for the first, they call a female, second female, third female. So you have to prove. So if the males are working like times one, you have to work like times four. Do you
Yeah.
understand? So at every point in time, you must stand out in everything you do. You must
Love
ensure you stand out in everything. Then there was this other exams we wrote. They call it CAPES. CAPES is like a promotional exam to becoming a lieutenant commander and to attend the next course that follows the one I talked about, the senior course. You understand? During that course, normally the first 5 that excel better, they take you for foreign courses. In that particular, the first 4, I was fourth overall, best medical during my
Nice.
time. Do you understand? So when
Yeah.
you do all those things, they will know that there is no woman, there is no man. So you have that capacity to do everything a man does. They won't need to segregate and say this or that. Though some people still once in a while want to say, I had a patient over the weekend. I had a patient that was supposed to, okay, presently where I work, apart from the H of the HOD ophthalmology, I'm also what they call the first lieutenant. First lieutenant means that you're the one in charge of the men, the officers and the men on board that ship. I have about 218 ratings. Ratings means the soldiers on board the ship. I have
Yeah.
about 46 officers, and the civilians about 100 and something thereabout, you know. So you have to make sure everybody, you take care of their security, their well, everything is you are the one that is in charge of that. So somebody gave me a patient. they saw a patient that the patient was discharged. The patient is not on board, is not in the area where I am. The person has to go somewhere else. And when the person that handed the consultant that handed over the patient to me, what he was saying was that, you're a female, it will be easy for you to, so once in a while, they want to like, you're a female, so you can do some other things better. They won't, if they go, they won't answer them, but you as a female. But most times you have to try and break that barrier, to let them know that we are equal, since the
Yeah.
military does not recognize a female or male. So you have to prove yourself in everything you do. So
Yeah.
for those people coming in, I'll just advise them, whatever you're being given, you have to prove yourself, so that nobody will say, okay, females, let's give them a lower grade than male. You just consider, no, you must be ready to stand apart with your other male colleagues.
I love that.
Thank
And
you.
then from what I'm hearing is you essentially just have to be the best, right?
Yes.
Be the best at what you do, because they are looking at how can you serve the patients? How can you take care of the civilians? Who is the best to be able to manage all these things? When you think about it, that's what you want. You want the best of the best, at that front line, making the magic happen. So I think that's huge. And I really appreciate you taking the time and giving your candid feedback and your experience. Because again, there is a young person out there, male, female, whoever it may be, that may be challenging themselves to join the military, the Navy in particular, and now they understand how that looks. Now, I kind of want to take a day in a walk in the life of what it looks like as a captain in the Navy. You mentioned that you had externs. If you don't mind, maybe sharing what it looks like from when you first get into the office to when you leave, because I think it'll be cool to kind of paint the picture of what it looks like as a Navy optometrist.
Okay, first of all, when I get to the office in the morning, I'm there by 7:30. I'm on board. Remember, I told you I'm the first lieutenant. So the first lieutenant would be the one to be in charge of the men to take the parade for the morning. Do you understand? So for the parade, they give you the parade state of those on board the ship. They'll tell you the strengths. We are 200 and this ratings on board the ship. Presently, we have this. These are on special duties. They'll just give us a breakdown. These are for courses. They give me that. So after the parade and all that, they dismiss. If there's clean ship, they send them to do what they need to do. From there, I now go to the clinic. When I get to the clinic and all that, I have 5 interns, as I said. I have one copper. I have an ophthalmologist that comes, but he comes on his surgery days and his clinic days. I also have one ophthalmology uniform, but she's on course. I have an ophthalmic nurse working with me.
Wow.
I have a medical assistant that works with us. So a typical day, a patient walks into the clinic, they do the due diligence, send them to do their payments, send them to do all the stuff they're supposed to do. The clinic is divided into, we have two areas, how we divide it. Some of the interns stay for investigation. The investigations, they're the ones that do the CVF, they're the ones that do the OCTs, they're the ones that do um, CCT, pachymeter. They are the ones that do that. So some are faced with that particular. So then the others are in the clinic. So when the patient comes in, we distribute them based on depending on this thing, we just distribute them to the various interns. So the interns, they see the patient first of all. When they are done with it, when they are done with their patients, they call me to, if there's this thing, they call me to review. We do the review together and all that. Then that's that for the patient. Then every Wednesday, the most interesting cases. Then the consultant comes on. Then for Wednesdays, they follow the ophthalmology to the theater. They share themselves. So this week, somebody's in the theater, who is in the investigation room, goes to the theater with the ophthalmologist, at least just to for learning purposes. So the most interesting case for the week, they do a presentation on a Wednesday. So
Nice.
Wednesday morning when we come, first thing in the morning on Wednesday, we do like in 1 hour from 8 to 9 o'clock before we start seeing our patients. Then on Mondays is the clinical rounds in the hospital. So everybody is involved for the clinical rounds. All the doctors, all the departments are involved. So if they do the case presentation, most times the presentations are done by the doctors in the A&E, accident and emergency. So when they do that presentation, everybody's there. Probably they're talking about a patient that came in with diabetes, that is a diabetic patient. So when they finish, they go from what they call it, they go from department to department. So they start with the pharmacy. the medication they do. Then when they get to optometry, what
Okay.
if we send such patient to you? What are you supposed to see? What are you supposed to do? What I so my interns are there and corpers to answer those questions. So I'll be standing by in case there's need for me to chip in or to add. So basically, they will be the ones to. So as they are doing the presentations, they will be telling you the signs. So if they are there, they take their pen, they jot down to this thing. So they'll be asking them, so when you come into the clinic, what did you see for that particular patient? So they explain what they see, what the signs. So if there's any other thing I need to chip in, yes, I just do the chipping and then generate the management of the clinic. So basically our day to day. So we start by 7:30. I'm there and we leave about sometimes 6 p.m. in the
Wow.
evening. We are done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Then if
So
we
it's long days, but it sounds like the students, the interns, they're really getting a widespread of knowledge from the
yeah.
different patients that are coming in, but being able to have grand rounds to be able to
Yes, we
present,
do that. Then they
you know,
also have HIV. They have HIV clinic days. They put them so that they have an idea of what everything is all about. So you don't go with only ophthalmology or optometry setting. They
yeah,
put them in the HIV clinic. They join them and all that. They treat. Sometimes HIV patients they have some ocular symptoms. So day to
absolutely.
month, yes. So they have clinic days. Then they also have some days in the A&E where they teach them how to suture, how to because
Oh,
they could
wow.
be so they have days for so those their program is broken down into all that. Then we also have the clinical presentation for the hospital where different like the last presentation during the World Glaucoma Day, we were
Yeah.
the ones that did the presentation, my interns. Yeah, so we do presentation to the whole hospital. So then even to the command, because normally when I was in okay, probably we'll get to that. When I was there's so much to talk about. When I was in the headquarters, there were lots. Normally, there's something they call the annual medical examination that is being done. Annual medical examination is for the what they call it, the personnel of the Navy. Every month on your birth month, you come for annual medical. The medical checks everything from your eye to everything. We do all tests covered yearly and all that mammogram, everything done for the personnel. So normally when they come to the eye clinic, we chat what we see. And when I was in the clinic over the years, I found out that we had a lot of patients with glaucoma. Do you understand? So while I was in the headquarters, I brought it up and graciously we were allowed to do annual. They put in like they call it Navy order, where from time to time they will tell the unit to conduct lectures on glaucoma. Do you understand?
Yeah.
And lectures, we do glaucoma on glaucoma. So they go, they tell them what glaucoma is all about. So during that this thing we had for the command, which my intern was the one that did. Normally they will do the presentation. I'll just be standing by them and probably I'll take the questioning and all that. So they were the ones that did presentations and all that. So the whole various units, not just the hospital, other Navy facilities in Calabar area, they come together and they do the presentation, and I'll just sit down watch. But before then, we would have done our rehearsals to correct them, let them know, find out things. If you say, sometimes they can do some this and say, if you take this, you can. I'll say, how do you know? We just look through things. Yeah, that's just
Yeah.
what we do.
Yeah, I mean, you're doing a fantastic job, and thank you for really equipping all these optometrists to go out in the real world and be able to take on any patient that walks through their doors. I mean, to understand how to suture, to understand how to break down disease, whether it's HIV, ocular complications, and be able to see that and be able to educate that patient that they may have, whatever disease, diabetes, HIV. I think that's game changing. You guys are really putting together the full picture and providing full scope optometry. And I think it's awesome that they're getting the ophthalmologist perspective, the optometrist perspective, but also the business perspective as well. That's a game changer. Now, I love everything that we touched on, and I feel like you should write a book because you got so much knowledge, right, and so much experience. But I would love to know, if you had the opportunity to, um, share some words of wisdom. I always like to say, uh, you know, this is the time to hang up your phoropter, right? Your time to retire. What is it that you want to be known for when it comes to eye care? Because you've done so much, we've said so much on this podcast, but I'm curious to know, what do you want to be known for when it's your time to retire?
Okay, when I retire, I want to be known as the transformational leader. That wherever I go, I impact. I can't come to a place and leave it the way I saw it. There must be a change. My joy now is, though I'm not retired, my joy, I've been away from practice for like 8 years, since 2017. I just came back in January. I was appointed to come back to the hospital. And as I came back, I was happy because this was not what I left. While I was in the headquarters, the equipment I made sure the authorities bought. I came back and I saw them. I was glad. I said, "Oh, the OCT when even the OCTs when they were bought, I was for a course." My boss called me. You know what he told me? He said, Mina, if I didn't know you, I would say your father was the one that made OCT. What is it with OCT? You wanted to, you know, I would think your father was the one that made it, you know. And I got back and everything we bought from the headquarters, they are there. Do you understand? So I just want to be that person that when I leave, they'll say, "Do you know she transforms anywhere she goes?" And I tell my interns, learn to leave positive impact where don't leave the place the way you met it. Ensure you make an impact wherever you find your feet trends. Just make sure you make an impact. Positive impact.
I love that. And you've made an impact in my life. Just sitting here listening to you, I'm getting goosebumps and chills because everything you're speaking is the truth. It's real. And I love that you mentioned the word, transformation. As eye care professionals, we have the opportunity to really have two types of exams and two types of relationships, whether it's inside the exam lane or outside the exam lane. And one is transactional, where we're just trying to get something from the person that's sitting in front of us. And you may make some money with that. You may grow a practice with that. But if you really want to create loyalty and change someone's life, you want to have that transformational relationship. And you have clearly done that. And you have done that by taking it back to the beginning of this conversation, by creating structure, by being of interest, and just by making an impact. So I want to thank you on behalf of all of optometry in Africa, but really globally, for everything that you have done to change the game in eye care for optometrists and ophthalmologists and opticians out there. For those that are listening to this podcast interview and want to, pick your brain a little bit more, learn more from you, what's the best way for them to communicate with you? Is there an email? Is there social media, LinkedIn? What's the best way for them to connect?
My email, Dr. Mina Eda, that's DRMINAEDAH at gmail.com. Dr. Mina at gmail.com.
I love this. Look, I just want to say thank you again for all the work that you have done. This has been a fantastic interview. For all my colleagues out there, make sure you continue to tap into Eyefrica Media. We're going to continue to bring these amazing podcast interviews, and we want to break down every opportunity for all of the optometrists out there. We all have different walks of life. We all do optometry differently, but we all have one common goal, and that's to help patients see, that's to help change their lives and help to make an impact in their lives as well. Dr. Mina, thank you so much for taking time to chat with me.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
Out there, stay healthy, stay positive, and stay blessed. And until next time, peace. Check out Eyefrica Media. Let's go.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Eyefrica Media. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page and follow us on all platforms of social media.